Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Interest rates are still climbing. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Today, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.5 percentage point in an effort to fight inflation. It's the 7th increase since March. Back then, the benchmark was near zero, and now it's just under 4.5%. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has a look at what it means for the housing market.
Rising interest rates are leading to a slower housing market in San Diego.
It's put a big damper on demand.
John Fields has been a real estate agent in San Diego for a decade. He says buyers who were once willing to get into bidding wars with offers way above asking price are now hesitant to get into the housing market.
The market is still moving along, don't get me wrong, but it's not that 10 to 15 offer type of situation over the course of a weekend. It's more like maybe you put your home on the market on a Thursday and maybe it takes a week or two to get a couple offers or to get any offers. The way I'm putting it to my clients right now is that things are simply normalizing.
Matt Fico is the CFO of California Coast Credit Union. He says he's seen home and auto loans slowly evaporate because of the rate hikes. He says when interest rates were near zero at the beginning of the year, there was a borrowing frenzy that continued through late summer.
Since then, when these rate hikes that really started to kick in, we saw the volume start to taper off.
Fico says all those rate hikes in a market where the median home price is $850,000 meant monthly payments were no longer affordable for many.
So if you're buying a same house today that you bought a year ago, your monthly payment is now up by maybe $1,000, even more in some cases. So it's a significant increase to the consumer.
He says the same thing applies for car loans.
We see consumers trying to extend their car loans out to beyond 72 months, 84 months, in some cases 96 months or even over 100 months. So those are significant, terms to pay an auto loan.
The result?
Home mortgages have pretty much gone away. We still are seeing some borrowing on second mortgages or home equity lines of credit.
Fields says buyers should not get into a home or market for the wrong reasons. If a buyer is going to stay in a house for a long time, it's one thing, but
if the answer is I'm going to sell my home next year and try to make some money, my answer right now is I don't know if this is the right time for you to buy.
But he also says
rental rates are so high, and you compare them to what your mortgage would be, and they're right on the same level, and it does make sense for you to buy.
Fico says he's seeing a worrying trend, and he hopes people also think twice about holiday spending because interest rates also affect credit cards.
Consumers are using their credit cards to pay for these basic living needs, everyday living needs that they have, and that's not typically a good sign that we like to see.
He also says institutions like his help consumers for free with debt and creating plans so they don't get into trouble. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Baja California prosecutors this week sentenced 2 cartel hitmen to 25 years for the murder of journalist Margarito Martinez. Martinez was one of 2 Tijuana journalists gunned down in January. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis spoke with other Tijuana journalists about their fight for justice.
Sonia de Anda attended every single court hearing in the murder trial of Margarito Martinez. Prosecutors recounted the gruesome details during the 5-hour-long sentencing hearing in a Tijuana courtroom on Monday. De Anda is also a journalist. She says that the gunmen hunted down the 49-year-old Martinez as if he were their prey.
Realmente fue cazado por estos sujetos.
The 2 hitmen stalked Martinez for 2 days before killing him on the morning of January 19th. An assassin identified as El Uber shot Martinez 3 times from the back while another man, known as El Huesos, filmed the whole thing. They were paid $1,000 each. Martinez was a prolific crime reporter in Tijuana. His murder prompted protests and demonstrations throughout the city. Prosecutors also identified the alleged mastermind of the murder, a man known as Cabo 20. He allegedly ordered Martinez's killing because of an article about his family published in Zeta. Cabo 20 believed incorrectly that Martinez had taken photographs of his family. Those photos actually came from government sources. Cabo 20 is currently in jail for another murder and has not been formally charged in Martinez's death. De Anda says that justice won't be served until everyone involved is convicted.
Sí podemos presionar a la autoridad para que haga todo lo posible y para llegar al asesino intelectual.
She says journalists will continue to pressure authorities. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
A group of San Diego State University students marched on campus today. It comes 1 week after the district attorney decided not to file charges in a sexual assault reported in October of 2021. KPBS reporter Melissa May has the story.
Let it be known, let it be heard. We are upset and we are disappointed.
I want this march to be seen, and I want it to be heard.
This is Jade Smith, a second-year SDSU student and organizer of the Survivors March on campus.
It's only me doing this, and whether it's 5 people or if it's 20-plus people, our message is still the same. We want something to change. We want something to happen. We want consequences to be given, because if they are not, it enables this behavior.
First-year SDSU student Grant Becker also took part in the march.
My first semester here, and it was a rough start getting that email right in the start of the semester about, a huge sexual assault scandal.
The San Diego district attorney announced last week that no charges were going to be filed for the alleged sexual assault that took place in the college area over a year ago.
This issue specifically holds a real special place in my heart. Because I've experienced it so many times, and I know how survivors feel when they go through this.
Smith hopes for change and wants SDSU to acknowledge the students' concerns.
It's hard having to experience something traumatizing to the point where you don't feel heard or you feel numb even mentioning it or talking about it. It's hard. I don't feel safe in this campus. I know other survivors don't feel safe in this campus, and that is why I'm here.
Becker says he feels safer than his female friends on campus.
It shouldn't be that way. It should be equal levels of safety regardless.
Smith has this message for other sexual assault survivors.
To not be afraid, even when it feels like the whole world is crumbling down, that there are people there that believe you and will be there to support you. And if it's not the higher-ups, then I just want them to know that I'm here for them.
SDSU's investigation remains active regardless of the DA's decision. The university continues to urge anyone with information to come forward and share it with the Title IX office. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The work of determining how to compensate Black Californians for harm caused by nearly 200 years of discrimination began today in Oakland. The first in the nation reparations task force is discussing potential eligibility requirements and what form reparations could take. A plan is expected by July 1st of next year. And history is a standard high school subject, but some students have been learning about some forgotten San Diego history. KPBS education reporter MG Perez shows us how they are exposing ugly truth and discovering some interesting surprises.
Oh, guys, this was a baby. That one right there.
Kate Pfister, Denise Alvarez, and Giovanni Gonzalez are on the hunt for hidden history at Pioneer Park in Mission Hills. These gravestones are a clue to what used to be here in the late 1800s. For decades, local residents of Mission Hills have only known it as the popular Pioneer Park.
There were some new laws that were passed that determined that if a cemetery was deemed abandoned, it could be turned into a park or any other community space.
This trio are seniors at Jacobs High-Tech High School. For the past 2 months, they've worked together on a history assignment to uncover what was once a Catholic cemetery, the final resting place for more than 1,000 bodies. Now there is a park with a playground and a picnic spot. Part of the assignment was research. The other part of it was to create a sculpture to visualize it.
We just think oh, what are some areas in the park that we could contribute into the sculpture.
It's one of the more notable aspects of the park. It's something you'll notice more because children play on it. And even though it is a little bit morbid, it is still a fact that there are bodies beneath this entire park.
Not far away at the busy intersection of 4th Avenue and University in Hillcrest, 3 more High-Tech High seniors are showing off their history/art project. It shows a harsh reality.
A smaller, rundown building being crushed by a bigger, modern one.
The LGBTQ community in Hillcrest is actually being pushed out due to gentrification. They're the ones who originally created the charm in Hillcrest, that unique, very welcoming atmosphere.
And then there is this sculpture displayed near the splashing Balboa Park fountain. High-Tech High seniors Serena Fedor and Santana Lynn Suarez have created a beautiful piece of art with tents and a house, with Hestia looking on, the Greek god of home and hearth.
One of her sides is broken while the other has the flame in it, the flame of the home and the hearth. The broken side represents the homeless community, while the intact side represents the community of just the people living a normal day-to-day life.
This history project hits close to home.
San Diego's America's finest city, but in reality, when you actually walk the streets of downtown, you see what's going on with homelessness and people not having families and people living on the streets and babies being out there. And
this is one school assignment that will be graded and remembered for bringing some of San Diego's history back to life. MG Perez, KPBS News.
We're 1 year into a program Governor Gavin Newsom says will transform early childhood education. But KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser says schools are not prepared.
The football didn't even win.
Well, it's about to.
The morning drop-off isn't easy for many elementary schoolers and their parents. But it was downright brutal in September for Sarah LaPietra and her 4-year-old son, Teddy.
He would lay down on the ground the second he got inside the gate.
Teddy attends McKinley Elementary, a San Diego unified school near Balboa Park. LaPietra says she was supposed to stop at the gate and tell her son to walk by himself to class. It didn't go well.
And I felt like I couldn't go in and do anything, but also he wasn't going to class. And so I'd just be watching him lay on the ground in front of and stuff. And so I just felt it was awful.
Now, the school has changed the rules so parents can walk their kids to class. But Teddy is still struggling to adjust to many other parts of being in elementary school.
He's just been having behavioral issues that we never saw when he was in preschool, hitting kids and teachers and things like that. He was running out of the classroom the first week or two, which obviously is a big safety risk and is concerning for us and for his teachers.
Teddy is one of many younger 4-year-olds who are now attending TK. Governor Newsom and other state leaders say it'll better prepare students for kindergarten. But many parents and experts say the schools aren't ready for them.
You might walk into a TK classroom and you might see 75% of the time is devoted to instruction on math and literacy, and that's a red flag.
Sasha Longstreth is the chair of San Diego State University's Child and Family Development Department.
Maybe they're a little too heavy on the elementary side and they need to introduce some more developmentally appropriate practice from preschool.
We are practicing writing the letter L.
State guidelines on how TK will be taught haven't been fully implemented. That means some classrooms are not structured with the right balance of instructional and free playtime. Longstress says this is a recipe for behavioral problems.
At this age, children, as you mentioned, do need to have experiential learning. They need to have a lot of movement.
A San Diego Unified spokesperson said the needs of 4-year-olds are being met. In a statement, he said student schedules include purposeful play, recess, and physical movement. The district schools generally have 15 minutes of outdoor recess and another 20 minutes after lunch. Parents say that's not enough. And they say the problems with TK don't end with the school day. La Pietra's son is having even more issues at his school's aftercare program.
They're very quick to be like, you need to come get him. We can't handle this. You need to come get him. He's doing this. You need to come get him. Even like it was raining and they were like, you need to come get him because we don't really have anything to keep him entertained.
It is situations like this that give some parents pause. Sarah Alamani is another San Diego Unified parent. Her daughter Valentina would be eligible for TK in 2024, but she's not going.
I just don't think the facilities are built for 4-year-olds. They're not really supposed to be just sitting in a classroom all day. They're not developmentally ready for that.
She says the schools don't have bathrooms or playground equipment right for 4-year-olds. And they don't have a place for them to nap. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
The uncertainty clouding California's solar marketplace could be settled this week. As KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson explains, the California Public Utilities Commission is considering a plan that slashes the rooftop solar subsidy.
My City Heights courtyard cottage. Come on, Max, come on. Got my tangerines, got my avocados going here.
When KPBS talked to Ricardo Castillo a year ago, he was just as excited about showing off his garden as his solar system. His rooftop solar panels and a new efficient heating and cooling unit have slashed his utility bills. But new solar customers are facing a different reality if regulators approve proposed changes to California's solar rules.
We think rooftop solar is very important. Our concern was how you fund it.
The proposed net energy metering rules, NEM is the shorthand, don't include investor-owned utility calls for mandatory steep grid connection fees. But the plan does slash the value of electricity produced on rooftops, and that means it'll take longer to recover the thousands of dollars homeowners spent to install the solar panels.
California's eye-watering rates are, the other part of the equation that deals with payback. And if you live in San Diego, you have the highest rates in California. You, I believe, have second, first, third, depending on the, measurement, highest rates in the country. And 10 to 20% of that high rate is just the NEM subsidy to existing customers.
The Public Advocate Office's rate specialist says existing solar owners get a rate benefit that can earn them up to 6 times the value of their initial investment. Mike Campbell says that's too much, and the proposed rules are much more sustainable.
If the question is it less generous than what there is? Yes. Is the amount of generosity we have currently reasonable? No.
A move to steeper peak electricity rates between 4 and 9 p.m. is designed to create an incentive to install batteries. That would give residents the ability to store electricity during the day and use it during peak pricing hours. Campbell and Baker say they would rather see solar subsidies that give credits for installation like the federal government does. But they're stuck with paying for those subsidies inside already high electricity rates.
Yeah, that's right. Give us a hand.
The proposed changes don't sit well with solar backers. Advocates have worked hard for over a year to keep existing incentives so the state can double the number of solar households to 3 million by 2030. Advocates are optimistic the California Public Utilities Commission can still make changes.
We've managed to build a statewide and local coalition of cities, elected officials, nonprofits, churches, schools, climate justice organizations, and we've been able to successfully advocate for changes in previous proposals.
The new plan doesn't include a $600 million equity fund that was in last year's rejected proposal. That was a subsidy designed to bring solar to low-income households and communities of color. Advocates reject utility-backed arguments that the current solar subsidy falls unfairly on the bills of residents without solar.
In order to address equity, you have to intentionally address inequity. And rooftop solar is a way to do that. You allow us to participate in our own life here, right? As well as helping the planet and helping the grid, but they're trying to take all that away.
The California Air Resources Board says the state needs to quadruple the amount of solar-generated electricity by 2045 to help hit the state's carbon neutrality goals. The state's move to cut the solar subsidy by 75% is widely expected to slow solar installations. Wally Arita works for a solar installation company in San Diego, and he says that'll hurt an industry that employs more than 68,000 workers.
This is very inconsistent with what they're trying to do, because by putting in this new mandate, they're basically trying to cut the number of residential solar installs, and that is not good for the industry at all. It's not good for the industry, it's not good to homeowners.
Regulators will discuss the second proposal to revise net energy metering on Thursday. They can adopt, reject, or tweak the measure, or a commissioner could introduce a different option. Any action requires a majority vote from the 5-member panel. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A drought emergency has been declared. The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California provides water to 26 agencies, including ones covering Los Angeles and San Diego. Today, the board called on agencies to immediately reduce how much water received from the district.
After a frosty start over some of the interior valleys, even into the deserts, hey, Borrego Springs all the way down to 31 early this morning. Not quite as cold tonight, still chilly, but gradual warming trend, if you want to call it that. Just a little bit higher in terms of temperatures here the next couple of days into Friday, and we are going to stay dry. So let's talk about tonight. Again, Borrego Springs this morning down around 30, 31, 35 tonight. So close call, remoted down to 32. There still can be some patchy frost, but not nearly as widespread as it was here this morning. Oceanside to San Diego on either side of that 40-degree mark. Futurecast pretty quiet here, not painting any precipitation in the foreseeable future. If anything, as we work our way beyond Thursday into Friday, we'll start to notice a bit of an offshore flow, and that can also enhance just a little bit more warming. Could also stir up a bit of a gusty breeze, again, over some of the interior valleys, especially points north. Here's your overall look as we go into Thursday. Still a chill in the air over the mountainous terrain, points east. Temperatures climbing just a tiny bit higher from Oceanside to Chula Vista. Lower 60s on tap. Borrego Springs 63, Mount Laguna topping off at 49. And as we go into Friday, I think we can see just a gentle offshore flow kicking in here. So the winds will be stirring up just a bit more, where high temperatures will climb a little bit higher, and they're going to kind of settle back down perhaps a couple of degrees as we venture our way into the upcoming weekend. Jet stream stays well off to the north, so we're not going to be looking at any active storminess really anytime soon. So climbing temperatures just a bit at the coast the next couple of days. Those settle back down as we go into the weekend. There will be some clouds around over some of the interior valleys. Upper 60s on Friday. Can see a bit of a breeze stirring about, and then we'll see those temperatures settle back into the mid 60s into next week. Mountains stay chilly over the course of the next several days. And as we talk about the desert here, we're going to look at those overnight lows. Still into the mid to upper 30s, not quite as low as what we saw this morning. Still looking at some sunshine, still a bit on the cool side, especially into Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
A woman from Del Mar is hoping to give impoverished children in Liberia a Christmas to remember. KPBS reporter Claire Strong has the story.
Lisa St. John's a real-life Santa Claus. She's determined to make Christmas happen for around 200 Liberian school children by raising $4,000 to buy presents. There are no iPhones or Xboxes on their list to Santa, though, just everyday items that we take for granted.
What these children get for Christmas is not what we're accustomed to. They don't receive a wrapped toy. It's used clothes in a trash bag.
Lisa's passion for helping underprivileged kids from Liberia started in 2018 when she fostered Obadiah, who was 8 years old at the time.
He had a large malformation on his face, and he was 8 years old, so his whole life he'd lived in this very, very poor country where he was treated with witch doctors and suffered a lot of bullying because of his appearance. But he is so smart, and so talented and funny. And I think he got through all of that due to his sense of humor.
Obadiah needed a family to look after him while he underwent surgery at Rady's Children's Hospital. So Lisa and her husband John stepped up to the plate.
This is Obadiah's bed. He slept here. It wasn't anywhere near this clean when he lived here.
Obadiah is now living back in Liberia after completing his medical treatment in the US. But Lisa wanted to do more, so she set up the Liberian Perseverance Foundation. The non-profit has raised enough money to send Obadiah and his siblings to a modest boarding school, where they receive an education, regular meals and beds to sleep in. All things they didn't have before.
There's hundreds of kids that are at this school, and I say boarding school, it's not what we have here. It is bare bones. The education is not great, but it's an education.
The charity also provides students with essentials like food, clothing and school supplies. They've also bought the school a gas stove to cook on instead of using a hole in the ground.
Thank you for the people that gave me the school fees. Thank you so much. And thank you, the place that we're going. Thank you for paying the place. Thank you.
Lisa hopes the charity will eventually be able to raise enough cash to buy some land so the community can grow their own food and raise livestock. For now, though, Lisa's Christmas wish is for people in San Diego to give what they can so Obadiah and his friends feel a little extra love this festive season. Claire Strong, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.